Well, obviously, we're pleased with the verdict. And there's no real winners. I mean, because obviously there's so much tragedy and hurt behind this. We're blessed that the jury looked at all the evidence. We had a chance to speak with them. They considered everything. And this is a long day coming for Adrian and his family. But we're humbled by the verdict. But we also know that there's families on the other side that are dealing with this new normal that they've had for 3 years, and they're still in pain. And so this was a disappointment for them. So we acknowledge that.
What would you say to those families who are living in court frustrated right now, saying that this is an extension of years-long injustice? What's your message to them?
I mean, if you know my family story, I mean, my brother was taken from us, and I know I've seen it. I understand it to that extent. I've been praying for them. We pray for them. We're sorry that they feel that way. We understand that their separation from their loved one is going to be felt as long as they walk on this earth, and we don't ignore that. We acknowledge that. We're just going to continue to pray for them. So I'm very sorry that they feel that way.
Did you get a chance to talk to any of the jurors, and did they tell you how they reached this verdict, or how was the decision making?
Yeah, we didn't get a lot of time with them because then everyone couldn't leave until they left, but they were gracious enough to stay back. It was emotional for them, you can tell. They said there was gaps in the evidence. They appreciated us bringing out those gaps. They considered everything. They were very diligent. They worked very hard back there. They were very mindful and deliberate. We didn't ask them what the split was initially because there was not a lot of time for that. But obviously they were saddened because they know what the other families are mourning still. But they said there was a lot of gaps in the evidence, and some of it didn't make sense to them.
What do you think this message sends to law enforcement? That was a key part of your case.
Well, I don't know if this case wasn't about us trying to send a message other than to consider all the evidence. I mean, we felt Adrian was innocent from the beginning when we analyzed the situation. We knew it was going to be a challenging case because of the emotions, the sheer emotions behind it, and those precious babies being taken from those families. And so we knew that. Well, I guess for us, as former prosecutors and defense attorneys, we would like to see more training with law enforcement in these situations that are so active and fluid and dangerous. And there's no one-size-fits-all for these situations, but also working with the schools. I think the schools need more funding. So that's a longer discussion, though.
Jason, why did you think the state decided not to call Salcedo and Mendoza? They were on the list, and did you consider actually bringing them?
Yeah, I think we did consider it. As far as why they didn't call them, I think it was pretty clear that as the trial developed and we saw what they were trying to accuse Adrian of, we saw that there were actually other officers that were in better situations. And I mean, just as a former prosecutor like we were, I don't know that comparison was going to help their case. And so by calling these other witnesses that had line of sight to the shooter, that had these other things that Adrian never had, it was just highlighting again, which we highlighted without them there. And so as far as your question about whether or not we thought about calling them, the fact that the state didn't said a lot to us, and we believe said a lot to the jury, and we were able to get out our point of view on that with their evidence and the lack of who they called. And so I think that's why. And to add to Nico's thing about training, this is the first time in Texas that an officer's training has been used as a mallet or as a cudgel against the officer. And one of the problems with the training, as we kind of saw from the evidence, is that it's confusing, is that it sends mixed messages. And its purpose was never to have somebody be prosecuted who went through a class because they weren't able to perfectly gather everything about a training or be able to apply that training in a situation that the training never contemplated. And so, I mean, I think that for law enforcement, I think that it is a wake-up call for them that they need to be aware that their training is being used by prosecutors to criminally prosecute police officers. And honestly, in this case, it wasn't right to do that to Adrian. It wasn't fair to do that to Adrian. Yeah. And it's not fair to do that to any officer because everybody out there was trying to do what they thought was right. And we know that there were failures. But it wasn't because they wanted to fail. It's because they were trying to do what they thought was right. And just going by a training and trying to use that as part of the indictment, that was count 2 of the indictment, is going to be, that would be a problem, I think, and it needs to be addressed. Whether that's, having officers, having the training people say specifically on the packet, this is not intended to be used as a criminal prosecution against any officer who goes through this training. So that was a big thing that we saw throughout. And I think also to talk about what Nico said, we wanted these facts to come out, because as the facts come out and we see what Adrian actually was doing and what he was putting his life at risk to try to help those children. He was. That's what the proof, the prosecution didn't dispute that. The proof that everybody saw and everybody was able to see showed that Adrian was willing to risk his life and did. Yeah. And that we were glad that the jury saw that. We were glad that that came out.
And that wasn't part of the narrative this whole time, and so that was challenging because everybody heard about this case. During jury selection, this whole room had 450 people in it, and everybody raised their hand that they had heard about this case. Now, the extent of what they heard and whether they made up their mind, of course, we're doing that questioning back and forth. We had a questionnaire as well, and so that was a challenging part of this case as well because there was a narrative out there, and frankly, with all due respect, it was a false narrative out there, and so the true monster in this situation was lost, and then it was all directed at Adrian, and so that was an uphill battle from day one in this case.
During voir dire, there was some auditory outbursts. Have you ever had a voir dire hearing where you could, that people had views? I mean, what's your sense on that?
Well, I don't think anybody's had a voir dire this way, and it was new for us as well, and we've tried a lot of cases together as prosecutors and defense attorneys, and it was unique. I mean, just the sheer size of the veneer panel was unique. And so, that was unique and that was different, but we had to deal with it. We had a plan dealing with it from day one. We had a strategy going into voir dire to opening statements to the way we were going to present evidence and how we felt that we were going to use the government's witnesses to bring out points and then wrap it up in closing. And then what we decided at the last minute to not call witnesses because you're always trying to figure out where you're at with a jury based off how the evidence is going from the government. So those are game time decisions that we had to make.
Nico, can you just talk about your strategy here? I was very intrigued because I've been wondering if you thought maybe at some point you went too hard when you were over-defending. Maybe that's not the best word.
No, you can ask it that way.
Yeah.
And I asked the jury that specifically. And they said no. They thought it was appropriate. You're talking about Ranger Hill?
Yeah, or just even in your closing, right? In your closing argument, you were kind of almost apologizing.
To whom?
To the jury or so if I went too hard.
Well, I was referencing Ranger Hill.
Okay.
I mean, because you never know, and obviously I didn't take that tone with every witness. The jury said that it was appropriate based off, and that's how I felt it was, and that's why I did it. And because so yeah, I did. I think about that often. We all do when we're cross-examining witnesses. Obviously, we don't start out that way, but we have to respond appropriately based off the witness, and we prepare them in voir dire, by the way.
Is there anything else you could share with us about what the jury told you
Just about the gaps. They talked about gaps. They talked about perspective, what the government didn't prove on Adrian, and then they saw what he did do, and based off what officers, they were very attentive, and they listened, obviously, very directly, and it seemed like they were catching our theme develop as the trial went on. We didn't have a lot of time with it. We let the government speak first. Christina wanted to talk to them and really get into it, and I knew that it was very personal to her because of the community. So we kind of yielded our time to her with them, and then the judge called us out.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
How does Mr. Gonzalez feel with his verdict? How does this,
Is there anything he can say? Can we hear from him if possible?
First things first, I want to start by thanking God for this, my family, my wife, and these guys are here. He put them in my path, and I'm just thankful for that. And thank you for the jury for considering all the evidence and making that verdict.
Is there anything you want to say to the families?
No, not right now.
would you like to say anything about what this entire ordeal has been like for you?
As lawyers?
Well,
Oh, for Mr. Gonzalez.
Talking to Adrian right now, obviously it's very emotional. So, but I can tell you, I think any one of you can imagine that everybody who's been here, sorry, get me in the mic. That everybody who's sitting in front of us right now, I mean, y'all can't see, I mean, the people that are watching, you can't see it, but I can see just a wall of people in front of me. And that wall of people has been reporting on Uvalde, and not necessarily unfairly, but it has been reporting ever since Adrian was charged that he failed to do his duty, because that's what the prosecutor's charged, and that he failed in some way to try to do everything he could to help these children. And the evidence showed that that wasn't true. And the evidence showed that not only did he not fail, but he put himself in great danger. So you can imagine how somebody who has had the entire country look at him as somebody who was not willing to do his duty. And he is a proud man who does do his duty. And he went in there when it was time for him to go. He went in there and he was one of the first 5 in. And going down a hall where a rifleman, a gunman with a rifle, could have easily ended his life, could have easily made his wife a widow. And he was willing to do it because he did want to protect those children. So he went through all of that. And so the feeling that he's communicated, and that he'll be able to communicate, I think, in the future, is that it was obviously extremely difficult. It was difficult for the community, difficult for his family, difficult for him.
Iko and Adrian, you guys shared a pretty powerful hug right after that verdict. Just walk me through the emotions in that moment.
I mean, it's overwhelming for him. For us as well, we take on the burdens of our clients. We take it very personally. For me, I believe it's about stewardship. When a client comes to us as a firm and says, I trust you with my life, I mean, it's not, I take that very serious. I don't sleep. I'm a prayerful man. I pray for wisdom in how to handle and how to conduct ourselves in trial and to think. And for us, we got to make sure that nobody's going to outwork us. And so for us, it was kind of a culmination of his trust in us and our hard work together. And we didn't do it alone. These 2 lawyers are amazing. I learn from them every day, but then we have Michelle and Joseph as well, and then the team back at the office. So it was bittersweet, bitter because we know that there's people that are sad over this verdict. And as someone who's gone through the loss of my brother who was murdered in my driveway, and I know what it did to my parents, and so I felt for the family. I thought of the family. I was hugging him, for us, and for the family members, to be honest with you.
Mr. LaHood, you've been the DA. You've been on the other side. You also brought up Randy Hill. Do you think, and can others be charged in this?
Oh, I'm not going to make a charging decision for Christina. She's the elected DA, and she has to answer to her voters. But
I get that,
and make that, yeah.
I mean, you brought him up to the jury in closing. Do you think there's other people that share culpability?
I'll reserve my judgment on that, my comment on that.
Mr.
So
Levin,
why
I
do
have
you
a
think
question.
they haven't charged anybody else? I mean, it went from DPS all the way down, and they ended up with Adrian and Pete Arredondo.
I'm not going to speak for Chief Arredondo. I think for Adrian, it's what we said in closing. He was the lowest man on the totem pole, and I think they thought he was easier pickings. I mean, I'm not speaking to Christina's intention. I mean, I'm not saying it was, with immoral or anything like that or unethical. But I mean, I just thought they probably thought he was the easiest one to charge, my opinion.
I want to ask you, very few of us have seen everything. And you've had access to everything. Is there something that the country can learn, law enforcement can learn from this based on your experience, based on what you see here? Because this is going to happen again, sadly, in this country.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, this is a synergistic effect. When I said in closing that if that school door would have been locked, if those classroom doors would have been locked, if they had cameras on the outside of the schools, if we had officers that to Jason's point, had clarity in their training and then had the resources of what to do, if there was officers assigned to schools with the right equipment, with a long rifle, with handguns. I know it looks bad for people, but this looks even worse, and it feels worse for those precious families. I mean, so what is it going to cost us to protect our treasure, which is our children? We should say there's no cost. Money should be no object. And so if you want to make difference, you have to bring everyone together, training in shoot houses, meaning actively train in realistic scenarios so these officers will, as they say, fight like they train. You have to train. You can't just do PowerPoints and think that someone has information, it's going to sink in. This is muscle memory as it came up during trial. So this is a longer conversation that I'm happy to have because we've seen situations like this before, but it's a synergistic effect of many of the things that I just mentioned.
Adrian, what does moving on look like to you?
Just picking up the pieces and moving forward. That's it.
Adrian, do you speak Spanish? Como no para ver how do you feel in Spanish?
No.
The prosecution made it clear that they wanted this case to be a message for other law enforcement officers to find themselves in a similar position in the future. Do you believe that this case could be used as precedent for other cases?
I hope not. I hope other prosecutors don't see this case and think that they can go forward with these specific facts, with the law that they used as a case of first impression, with the training that the officers did or didn't have, with the resources that were not provided for them, with the school district that unfortunately did not provide the best situation for those children. I hope this is not the example moving forward, and I don't think it will be, but I can't make that decision for them.
Mr. Hood, the families are distraught, in tears. Your message to them?
I'll continue to pray for them. I mean, I can't, to say that I understand, I've experienced that with my own family and with my brother's passing, but I mean, it's a genuine hurt for them. It was bittersweet. There's no winners in this situation because they're still mourning, and I understand that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.